I was born in the soul of the Southwest, in the land of dust devils and progress. Embedded in the bones of my soft flesh, I took breaths of blue skies and sunsets. See, what I needed were deep thoughts and memories. Cheap talk for centuries, leapfrogging ahead of me. Postmark address with no editing. And here's what I've seen while my eyes are still letting me. And they ask what my city gon' give, but I tell them they gon' want it like I'm Billy the Kid. The outlaw slinging records got my city on my wrist. And it's really kinda silly putting chili on a cig. I'm a product persona, logical loner, floating down the riverside looking for La Llorona. And when I meet her, I'ma give her my condolence, and then proceed to have her singing on the chorus. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's U.I.AM singing My Town, featuring the wonderful Hakeem B, also known as Hakeem Bellamy. Now, U.I.AM is also Dr. Umar Malik, and it was awesome getting into his brain, understanding his story, and his relationship with the expression of writing and eventually rapping, and now releasing his very first album. I was connected with him through the wonderful Tom Goronick at the Outpost Performance Space. Thank you for that. And reached out to him on a whim through my friend Hakeem Bellamy, who's also been on the podcast. And we got to connect and talk about his love for medicine and his beautiful perspective on life that very much so is reflected through listening to this album. I encourage everyone to go check it out because it's definitely a tremendous album. It's called Runaway. And maybe we'll play another track at the end. But for right now, we're going to jump into this podcast. It's been about 2 to 3 weeks since we've put an episode out. But hey, sometimes a break is necessary, and we're so happy to be back with a lot more. So sit back and enjoy this episode with U.I.AM. And we're live here on Art Talk Music with Dr. Umar Malik. What's happening, my man? It's a pleasure to have you at my house and to get to finally sit down and meet you.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's a very recent connection, but it's one that was brought together from someone who's been a huge influence in my life, Mr. Tom Goronick. And he was telling me about the album release that you had just done at the Outpost.
Right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this, man. Your name is U.I.AM, of course.
U.I.AM, yeah. U.I.AM is what I go by, hip hop wise. But yeah, I met Tom recently, actually, looking for a place for the album release show. We knew we wanted to do something special, but in a small enough environment that still feel intimate, and also be able to use that space, use that time to not only promote the album, but also raise money for an incredible organization, local nonprofit. And when I sent an email to Tom, I didn't really know what was going to happen. Honestly, I never met Tom before, and he responded immediately. He was like, "Hey, come by this afternoon. We can talk it out." And he was absolutely incredible throughout the entire process. So he's great. He's awesome.
Tom is the man, and for everything he's done in the community, it's something special, you know? Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, leading up to, of course, as I found out about you through your album that Tom let me listen to a little bit and get into, I came to discover that you're a doctor as well.
That's right.
So you got quite a relationship with being a rapper and being a doctor.
Yeah,
right?
It's not every day that you got that combo, right? Not every day that you're hearing someone. So this dude by day he's a physician, and by night, I kick verses and love hip hop.
I mean, it's got to be like some sort of evolution of what doctors are and have been, right? Because there's always been musician doctors or artist doctors.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like there's quite the relationship between the two. Like, if you think about it, music in its own sense is medicine, and music can be healing. And like for me, that's like when I was starting out and writing and creating things when I was younger, it was really as an outlet, as a release. It was a healing process. And so for me, when people tell me, oh man, you're a doctor and you're a hip hop artist, for me, it really is like kind of the same thing, just in different manners, in different ways that
different mediums. Yeah.
can provide some sort of healing, not only to myself, but to other people.
Right. It's a powerful expression. I actually still to this day have that as my email. When I send an email from my AOL account, the signature is music is medicine.
Oh, nice.
Because
Yeah.
I believe that so strongly and
Yeah.
talk about the role that music plays in other cultures.
Yeah.
And it directly is
Yeah.
Healing.
Yeah, for real. Yeah,
So
definitely.
you grew up in Albuquerque.
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about that, man. All right.
Born and raised.
Ooh.
Born and raised.
blood.
Burgueño. Yeah, exactly. So actually, before I was even born, so my parents are from a tiny little village in Pakistan called Soroba. And they immigrated to the United States in the mid 80s. My dad was coming here for job and education, better opportunity for my family. And he actually moved, of all places in the United States, to a small little town up north called Cuba, New Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, you ever been to Cuba?
Of course, I passed through it.
You passed through it a lot, right?
You don't really hang in Cuba unless you know someone.
No, you don't, unless you know someone, or unless you're going to stop and eat
Yes.
food there.
Right.
Yeah, so he had one friend in the United States, and they had a connection there in Cuba. And so he worked as a medical lab technologist there.
Wow.
And
So you come
went
from
to
medicine.
school. What's that? Yeah.
You come from
your
lineage. I
Yeah,
should say.
my lineage, my dad. And so a couple years later, I was born here in Albuquerque. And we lived maybe like a year and a half up in Cuba before we moved down here. We've been here ever since. Yeah.
And what high school did you go to?
So I went to Academy.
Okay.
And for high school. And I remember all my friends were going to Sandia and La Cueva after middle school. I went to Madison Middle School.
Okay.
And I was so upset. I was so upset that I was going to go to Academy. I remember.
You want to go with your friends, man.
I want to go with my friends, right? My homies. But I mean, it ended up being fine. I played soccer and it was fine. Yeah.
So what year did you graduate?
007.
All right, my man. So I'm gonna drop this bomb because I graduated 08 and
From,
Manzano High School.
okay.
And one of my best friends, who was a wonderful piano player, who might have just been a year older than me, so 2 years older than you.
Yeah.
His name's Ryan Mouse.
Oh my God. He's your best friend?
He's like one of my old best friends, and
Are
he
you
was the guy
kidding?
that I was going to tell you and bring up to you is the guy that I knew growing up, who was not just an amazing piano player, but also made some beats and rapped.
Oh my God, dude. Yo, Ryan and I go way on back.
I figured, bro. Once you said the Academy connection and the UNM doctor, come on, medical school, it's like, this is a small town.
Yo, we used to make music together. We actually
Wow.
we've talked about making music together. We even made I don't know if you ever saw, we did a couple like medical school parodies. So Ryan and I
No, but I need to see those, man. I love Ryan and his sensibilities when he gets into stuff.
Ryan and I and a few other classmates
Yes.
made some medical school parodies when we were in med school because
Okay.
we had so much time, and which we didn't, but we connected on one of those songs, and he like produced the whole thing. It was amazing, man. I love Ryan.
He's a badass, man.
He's great.
He and I grew up. We met in All-State Jazz Band.
Okay.
And, in high school, and just like started hanging outside of that.
Yeah.
And we had a duo that we used to gig around with called Spectrum Duo. We used to
Oh, yeah.
get some gigs around. And then my other best friend, John Maestas, lived with him for a little while.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then, and then, of course, Ryan let us all know right before he got into medical school. He's like, yo, I'm about to go like deep in the water. So if you
Yeah.
don't hear from me for a couple of years, that's why.
Yeah.
And that was how it was. Like, he'd pop up every once in a while with Natasha.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. I know Natasha as well, man. I love both of them.
Man. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
It's a small
small town, small world. It's like, that's beautiful.
So where did your connection with hip hop, with rap, with this love for this type of music and expression come from, and who were your first influences?
Yeah. So from early on, like middle school time, I was writing thoughts, poetry down in my books. And it was just something that I enjoyed doing. Something that, my my parents actually encouraged me to do early on, was to write, have a notebook, and express yourself. And so I used to write poetry all the time. Even my mom actually a couple years back found this kindergarten book that I had, and I'd written some like poetry stuff back then that was like whack, but we all start there. Yes. And then it kind of evolved from there. So I continued to write poetry and for quite a while. Really my influences in music, I mean, I loved hip hop obviously, but I loved people like Common. I love like Tribe Called Quest. Yes. I love the Roots. Right. Of course I love like Pac and Biggie. Like they were saying something, it wasn't just random music. They were saying something with the music, and I really, really liked that. And I never really thought that I was going to be a hip hop artist. I never really even got into music or anything of that nature. I was more of like, I appreciated the lyricism and the words. And I was at UNM for undergrad, and one of my buddies was actually starting to rap. He and a friend were getting together and making hip hop music here and there, and they actually needed someone to make some beats. And I don't know why, but they said, you think you could do this? Like, could you make a couple beats for us? And I said, I've never done it before, but I'll try. So he burnt me FL Studio Fruity Loops.
Of course.
Of course, yeah.
No, he didn't really, supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly.
Right.
And so that I used that and made a couple beats for them. Yep. And that's kind of how I started. I started making beats, and I did that for about a year and a half. And then started putting my own words to the music. And after a while, one of my buddies, my best friend Ali, who was very instrumental on the newest album as well at that time, he was like, yo, you got a gift for this. Like, you got to do this for real.
Yeah, you got to run after it, yeah.
And so that's kind of how it started. Yeah.
So this album that you just released, tell me the name of the album.
So the album's called Runaway.
And where is this in your discography? First?
It's my first studio album.
So what is that whole lead up like? I mean, what is that wave, the trajectory of falling in love with making, wordplay in journals, to then eventually starting to make real-time beats that were your own, and you started developing and thinking about how some of that poetry or that lyricism could somehow, come out into this expression, and then now you're putting out your first full-length album.
I know. Yeah.
How old are you now? You're 28?
I'm 30.
30?
I'm 30, bro.
How'd you graduate? Oh, yeah, that's right.
The big 3-0,
yes, of course, man.
The big 3-0, man. I'm
dirty
getting
30.
old. Yeah. I'm getting old. My bones are hurting. It takes me like an hour to get out of bed now, man. Just wait. You're not 30 yet, right?
29.
Yeah, exactly, bro. When you turn 30, I guess it's over.
Months, you'll see. Yep.
Bro, it's over, man.
No, I tease about it all the time, man, and I'm starting to do better because I joke all the time. I weigh about 230 pounds, 220 pounds or so now, but I used to weigh about 180. So it's like I used to joke and say that the freshman 15 came on twice and never went away, But, now that I'm getting older, I'm like my mom and everyone around me is whipping me back into shape. I mean, you're pretty in shape. You played soccer, growing up. I played soccer too. It's like when you were active, it's just about getting back on the horse,
right? Right.
And
yeah.
suffering a little bit for a little while, and then it feels good and you're great,
Yeah. No, exactly, man. But yeah, going back to the album, so I had made 2 mixtapes actually 3 mixtapes prior to this. Just kind of
self-released them, or were you just passing them out?
Self-released, yeah, online, Bandcamp kind of stuff. And I felt like with each one, I was just trying to improve on certain aspects of my craft, like lyricism, poetry, whatever it was that I was trying to get across.
Right.
But it wasn't really like, this is a big, huge thing. Like, we're going to have a release show. I'm going to go do gigs. Like, this was like on the side kind of because I was trying to focus on school. I was trying to, keep my grades right and everything else. So it was kind of like on my own time. Every couple of years, I dropped a mixtape. And over the last year and a half, 2 years or so, you know, I think that, again, as I was saying before, like music is a healing process. And so, you know, I was going through a lot of difficult times in my own personal life, and using that as inspiration and drive to write more.
Yeah.
And so from those moments, I was able to craft several different songs, and eventually decided one day, initially the plan was, you know, I'm just going to drop this as a mixtape, just like always. And
this last
one. Good. Yeah. Even this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And then slowly, like, I felt like just like it was like a New Mexico Albuquerque tumbleweed that just kept tumbling and like getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then more and more we thought about it, like, instead of me recording this at home,
Right.
let's find a studio that we can go to for the first time. And now that we're in the studio, all right, let's figure out if we can actually make like a full length like album. And then now we got the full like album, and just kind of evolved until the point
Step
that it
by
was
step
actually
by step.
done, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you know
yeah.
that, right?
Oh,
You
yeah,
put
of
out
course, of
you put
course.
out your own music, and credit to what you do. You go all in, like, with the instrumentation and everything. There's like the soundscape is just so beautiful.
Thank you, man.
And I know just listening to it how much work and energy you put into that. Whereas I felt like even as a hip hop artist, the way that I do things, right? I just write, got a beat, producers, whoever, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's much more simplified.
It's a different chemistry, and it's a
Right?
different expression. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
It's like like the majority of your focus is within
Yeah.
what's on the page, what's your relationship there,
Yeah.
and how it flows within everything else in
Yeah.
the situation, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's just different focuses. But I mean, it's not to say one's more complex or harder than the other one, because,
Right.
you know, you could try and get any one of those guys that, you know, that's in the band to sit down with a pen and paper, and
Yeah.
be a lot harder. you
Yeah.
know?
It's just a little different, right?
But the full production of this wasn't like your earlier mixtapes. Your earlier mixtapes were all just your own Fruity Loop mixes, and you rapping on them and recording
right,
at
for the
home.
most part.
Yeah.
Recording at home, that kind of stuff. And then also the mixtapes were what hip hop mixtapes are, right?
Sure,
like
of
a little
course.
bit of me just flexing my lyricism and my lyrical ability, and
Yes.
so the songs were just individual, like they weren't really connected to one another.
Right.
And I always told myself that if I ever created an album, I always wanted it to be each song have its own space, but at the same time, the message overall, they kind of are interwoven in between all of the songs. And so I was able, when I was writing it, to create that kind of story throughout from start to finish that I wanted to create. And that's what I felt like set this apart from mixtapes that I'd done before.
Sure,
Right? Whereas
sure.
mixtapes that you did that I'd done before was like, oh, I heard this like dope ass beat. Sorry, I don't know if I could say that.
You can
But I
curse
heard-
as much as you want.
I heard this dope beat. I'm gonna write to it, and then that's it. That song's done.
Yep.
Okay, boom. Next song, like a week later. Whereas this process was totally different. Like, I had written the whole album, and I found the studio. Shout out to Elephonic Studios and Jesse Corman out there. He's amazing.
Yes.
And went in, and basically, initially the plan was, I told him, I said, I'm gonna book 1 8-hour day. We're just gonna make the whole album. He was like, man, you're
1 8-hour day.
he was like, yo, this dude doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And so we went in.
That's a lot.
We
Yeah.
went in, and the majority of the album, I would say probably 90% of the album was recorded that day.
Hmm.
But the rest of the several months after that were just, as you know,
Yeah.
mixing,
Picking
mastering,
at it
all of
little
that
by
stuff.
little. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's how it evolved from me saying, oh, like, I won't record at home. I'll record in studio, and
Right.
then go in studio. I'll just go for one day to like now like 6 months.
Of course, it's such an involved thing, and it is your baby. And even though you've put out mixtapes before, when you put out that big first album, you know, it's like that's where somewhat of the pressure is at. All of the pressure, in my opinion, because
Yeah.
that establishes your first real work,
Right.
and that's what people, you know, establish you and know you as.
Right.
But
Right.
Elephonic Studios and your producer, November, he has no E in there. So what is his word? What's
Oh, November. Yeah. So November.
I'm sure he was just for that one song.
He was
I
just for
think.
that one song.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So November produced My Town.
My Town.
And
Which is one of the singles of the album that you're just pushing out right now.
Yes.
You just dropped 2 weeks ago.
Just dropped
the awesome YouTube video, which I'm going to put links in the description of this podcast too, so people can check it out.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that song means a lot to me, and was a song that I written a long time ago that never really was my own. Had its own space, had its own place, and really just evolved to being one of my favorites off of the album. Like just the beat itself is just so energetic. It's so up tempo. It reminds me of the rhythm and the soul of Albuquerque, and so it just felt fitting, this overlaid on that boom bap, classic boom bap beat. It's just like amazing.
Yeah.
And
you
then,
give such a beautiful canvas to Hakeem in the song
I
as
know.
well. And he lays down just this whole vibe as well with his wording as well. Oh
my God, man. Hakeem is amazing. Shout out Hakeem.
Yes, shout out
if
to
he's
Hakeem.
listening, oh man, I can't thank that man enough for like blessing this album. Like I always think about it. I'm like, man, I'm like nobody. Like Hakeem's like so important to the city for what he's done.
Big time. Big time he is, man.
And so like for him to come in and agree to do that is like amazing.
Hakeem is a very special character, but even the story that both of you guys share about your love for the city within the song is awesome and poetic,
Yeah.
And you got a great trumpet player in there. Is that a sample, or is that a trumpet player that came and played
That's
something live?
Sample.
Sick,
yeah.
man.
I wish it was live.
Well, come on.
I wish.
For that album number 2, when you need those
That's
real
right.
musicians. Now
I know.
Now that we're connected.
Yes, definitely, man. Definitely. That would be
man.
dope, man. Seriously, that would
The
be
music
amazing.
is beautiful, and it's I mean, the whole album, has an awesome sound overall. You've got some beautiful strings. You've got a little bit of everything in the album, and I feel like you really do tell a story. You almost don't curse at all in the album, right?
That's
Not
right.
at all, right?
That's right. There's one curse word. I say shit on His Evils.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but otherwise it's
It's
pretty
very clean. Yeah.
pretty
Is
clean.
that how your mixtape stuff is before, or do you curse a little more on that stuff?
For the most part, I mean, I think when I was younger and I was just like kicking it like with the homies kind of thing, like
Of course,
there was
yeah.
a lot more cursing
Yeah.
and stuff. But
Tongue was a lot looser then.
yeah, tongue was a lot looser then. But then you, and I don't knock guys who curse, because I mean, I do that too on my music. If it's necessary, it's necessary,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but I think like over time I've just evolved to this kind of style where I feel like I don't need to curse on every track or on every song.
Sure.
Like especially when I'm trying to say something,
Yeah.
So it just depends on the mood of the song, I guess.
It also allows for a word like that to have a way heavier impact if it comes from you
Yeah.
when you do use it.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
were
yeah.
to use it,
Yeah, exactly.
But I love it, man. I love the song. I love the video. You're repping a lot of Somos Unidos, which is the soccer
right.
team here in Albuquerque.
That's right,
Is there a
man.
connection there with that? Were you just trying to rep them? Because
Oh,
I know
man.
you wear
I
a couple
love
of their
them.
jerseys,
Yeah. I wore a couple of the jerseys.
The
I mean,
Meow
I
Wolf
love
one, the other one, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love what they've done for the city. I think it's one of the best things that's happened to
It's an amazing motto. It's an amazing
Yeah.
thing to catch on to.
Yeah.
It literally is within the name of it and the propaganda of come to our thing. It's like it really is uniting people in the city.
Yeah,
which is tight.
I mean, we're killing it. Our attendance is like out the roof, man. Like it's crazy.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. All the games are at the Isotope Stadium,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. The
That's
Isotope
cool, man.
Stadium.
That's
yeah.
sick.
The next game I think is this Wednesday.
Do they happen every Wednesday?
No, it's
Just like different days of the
at
week and
different
stuff?
days. I think they were
Nice.
they were away for like 2 weeks. They were playing away games,
Cool.
but
And they're semi-professional. What's the
Yeah.
Like,
So
I know a
they're-
little bit about the soccer leagues. As far as the what is it, the MLS? Right?
MLS. Yeah. So we are in the USL, the United Soccer League, which is one tier below the MLS.
Got you.
So just like in the Premier League, they got the Premier League, and then they got the Premier League 2 or whatever, like the relegation league or whatever people want to call it. So technically speaking, we could potentially move up to MLS if we're good enough. We obviously win
Yeah.
the league. We got
We
our
do
own
good enough,
stadium.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
with the attendance. And so, so we're just playing one league under the MLS, and
That's sick.
we've been doing amazing.
Do you know if there's any Albuquerque people playing on the team?
Yeah. So we got a couple of guys on the team. the one dude who scored the very first goal for New Mexico United, Devin Sandoval. He's from Albuquerque.
Oh, wow. Sick.
And there's several others
That's awesome.
that are on the team.
I would
as well.
hope so. You know, I've seen their advertising and seen everything going on for them for the while. They've been around for what, a year now, or less than a year?
Less than a year, yeah. Since March, I think.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Since March?
Yeah, since March, man.
I mean, even just seeing the bump that's come up from then. I mean, Albuquerque needs things like that, you know?
It's crazy. I mean, I keep saying it, man. It's the best thing that's happened to Albuquerque in a while. And I feel like people are identifying with that and saying, like, this is like what our city really is. Yeah. And for me, that's why it was important to represent that, you know, to show that, hey, like, this is also part of Albuquerque, the old and the new, like the things that we talked about before, like the Bob's Burgers that's in the video.
Yeah.
But also like New Mexico United.
It's an awesome symbol that you're kind of, you know, sleekly putting in there, but also like connecting with Albuquerque, which is beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Now, tell me a little bit about the album release show. What was that like? Had you put on something like that before? Did you rent the space out?
Yeah, never had done anything like that.
Now, what's it like? I mean, tell, you know, for the young aspiring, you know, rappers, musicians, you know, aspiring, whatever, you know, people that ever want to put on a production like that, tell people a little bit about what it's like. It's not like medical school.
It's not like medical school, but man, it's just as stressful. But I mean, I had an incredible group of friends and people around me that helped put this on. Like this was not by any means just me.
Yeah.
There were some incredible people that were there helping out and doing their thing. And so, you know, after meeting, I sent the blind email to Tom asking about the space and the specific date, and he said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Initially, we were planning on trying to get it fit into like the summer, one of his actual official summer shows, but the dates weren't lining up. But hopefully be able to come back and do that at some point.
Yeah.
But I knew early on when the album was even being made that I wanted the proceeds to be donated to local nonprofit, people who are on the ground, who are actually doing positive things for the community. Like music can be inspiring and can inspire change. And there are also people here in our community who are doing some incredible and amazing things. And so I wanted the show, if we were going to do a show, to also benefit that organization or multiple organizations.
And shout out that organization. What's the name of?
So the local nonprofit is called Burqueños for Education and Empowerment. And they're a local nonprofit here in Albuquerque that provides scholarships for minority kids who are going to college who otherwise may have more difficulty getting standard scholarships due to systemic oppression and all of those things that we all know about we don't talk about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And it's a powerful, not just message, but act to give back to the community like that. So jumping a tiny bit over to the medical field. Now you just finished your residency. You've been practicing for a year now. Is that what you said, right? Yeah.
So I finished residency a year ago.
Okay.
And then for the last year, I was practicing in internal medicine / there's a role that a job, I guess, that I got for a year called a chief resident job. Mm-hmm. And you serve as an attending, you're practicing medicine on your own, but you're also supervising the residents and making their schedules and that kind of thing. So that's what I was doing the last year.
At UNMH or where?
At UNMH, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
So what's in the future? Are you going to release another music video? Are you going to do anything else as far as putting the album out? Or is there going to be any shows coming up soon that you might have?
Yeah, man. So I would love to do more shows, but
there's a shout out to people out there listening.
But I don't know if I'll have time. Actually, in 2 weeks, I'm moving to San Francisco, unfortunately.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
For my cardiology training.
For work. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
For cardiology. So I'll be out there for 5 years training in cardiology with the plan and intention definitely to come back here at home.
Sure.
Like I've always envisioned I was going to work at UNM until I get really old, and so that's still the vision.
Yeah.
To come back after gaining whatever knowledge I gain and then go to UNM and work there.
That's awesome. But that's also awesome that you're getting the opportunity to go to San Francisco, which is a great city. And the fact that you're going there for work also means that you'll be able to somewhat live there.
Hopefully. We'll see. But Yeah, but I'm still planning on making music and
Of
doing
course,
my thing.
I'm sure you can't live without that. Like all of us musicians that are
Yeah,
got it in our blood. You know?
Yeah, you still have to do something, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But in terms of Runaway, I mean, there's still plans for at least 2 more music videos in the next few weeks, and so there's going to be a music video for the title track for Runaway, and then there's one more song that's not actually on the album. It was a song that I dropped about 2 weeks before the album came out. It's called Rose Gold. And Rose Gold is featuring local talent Chloe Nixon, who is absolutely incredible. She's got a voice of gold. She's gonna be famous, man, one day. I've been telling her every time, man, she's gonna do it. She and I created this song called Rose Gold, and it's a song about Stephon Clark, who was a young black man who was shot in his grandmother's backyard in Sacramento in 2017 by police. And the police at that time thought that he was carrying a weapon of some kind, and after gunning him down, found that he had like a rose gold iPhone 6 Plus, and that was what they thought was a weapon. And so the song is called Rose Gold, and I had written that verse, that song a while back, and I knew that I wanted a talented singer on there, and got Chloe to participate. And so all of the proceeds from that song are actually going to Stephon Clark's family. And so we're releasing a video for that hopefully in the next few weeks.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And do you have a website, something that I can direct people to? Or obviously, I know I'm going to put little links of all your social media. Is that the best place for people to follow?
Yeah, I would say that's the best place, and probably my Instagram at UIM, YOUIAM. That's probably the best place to find things at.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Now, to go back to the album for a second, you were talking about the notion of when you're focusing and getting serious about putting out that first real work. You wanted to kind of have, of course, every song will be its own thing, but also have some kind of through message, you know? I definitely felt love as being a big part of the message that you were talking about.
Yeah.
But in your own words, what would you say that, you know, some of those themes that you were trying to express were on the album?
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I think love is a very big theme in the album. I would say there are multiple themes. It's kind of for me, Runaway is kind of the exploration of the beauty and the darkness, the good and the bad of life, love, religion, and music. And for me, I've had to, as we all have, you know, balance those different things throughout our lives. And, you know, it can be really difficult. It can be really easy. And those were the things that I was struggling with in the 2 years preceding the album, were like life, love, religion, and music. And I've tried to kind of craft the album by expressing those different pieces, like the good and the bad of each of those. And I think at times we, as human beings, tend to just hide those things and not talk about those things, not think about those things that are whatever it is, whatever your vices, whatever your evils are, right? Like we all run away from those things. And like, in a way, that's, you know, what this album is about too. It starts off with Runaway and the exploration of the darker things in life, and kind of, I guess, blossoms or blooms towards the middle of the album to, you know, the blessings of life. And that's where track 6 is Blessings, and you get the kind of exploration of all those things that are important to us that we often forget, that we need to highlight more, the things that bring us life and love and all of those things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I would describe the album from start to finish.
Now, what do you hope to be doing in 10 years as an artist, and of course as a medical practitioner?
Yeah, so I mean, I want to, I felt like Runaway and making this album and connecting with individuals through this album was the most beautiful part of it. Like, the music is great, but the connections that I've made with Jesse over at the studio, with Hakeem, with Chloe, with Courtney, with every producer that's on the album. All of those connections are what matter to me. And so, I want to continue to make music and make those connections, and hopefully use the music in the same manner that we've done here to support a local nonprofit, but continue to do that in other ways and other fashions in the future as well. So
beautiful.
And we'll see. I mean, as you said, right? Like, musicians can't stop.
Never stop, man.
Like, it's in the blood, right?
Yeah, people talk about retiring and stuff like that when it gets to that age, and it's like, I don't know, man. I think, most artists that I know want to create until the day they die,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Now, in wrapping up, I wonder what you would say to aspiring, young rappers or aspiring young people getting into it, and I ask that because, of course, I always ask that, with everyone with their instruments, but also just most recently where I had an auntie ask me about my little, one of my cousin's children who is 13 years old getting into rapping.
Oh, nice.
And he's like getting it, and she's like, I don't know, I know he has so much talent, and I want to help him, what would you say to a 13-year-old rapper, or even a 13-year-old rapper's grandma who's trying to get some help for him to get more serious about the craft and get more into it?
Yeah. So I mean, my number one piece of advice would be say something, right? Like, say something that means something to you. I grew up on hip hop legends like Nas and Rakim and all the Tribe Called Quest and Wu-Tang and all these dudes who were saying something in their music. And as long as you have that, like, you will succeed in whatever it is that you're trying to do. Not to knock like all of the Lil Perps and Nas and Lil Yachty's and all of those like artists. Like, they have their own genre, they're doing their own thing, they're doing what works for them, and that's fine. They're finding success in it. But for a new artist, I think it's also important for you to know what is important to you and what you want to say about it. And the world will receive that. They'll feel that energy. And so it's better to do that than to just say, like, I don't really know what I should talk about. I don't really know what I should write about. So that dude's writing about that one particular thing, so I'm going to write about that same thing,
Right.
If you're worried about that kind of stuff and you're not thinking about yourself, you're not thinking about the energy you can bring to the world, then it's going to be a very difficult road. But that's probably number one piece of advice, is just say something, something. And, the rest will come. And I also think that, we live in an age where we fear the judgment of others. And this is also a theme from the album, from Runaway. And I talk about this on a track called Glorious. Judgment from my community, from my religious community, from my family, from people that I love, and we as a society now, we fear judgment in multiple different ways, and it's even more heightened now because of social media, right? Like, anything you put out is going to get judged. And so for a new artist, it's important to know that, right? Like, if you feel strongly about something, if you feel proud of what you made, then that's all that matters, right? Like, you should be proud of whatever it is that you created, and not let the judgment of others, because that will exist no matter who, what, where, whoever you are. Like, that doesn't matter.
Haters
gonna hate, right? Haters gonna hate.
That's awesome, man. Now, just to kind of wrap this conversation up, you had sent me some links, and of course, I'm going to put this link up so that people can check it out. But it's an article that came out. Man, you had an article come out on CNN, and how freaking cool is that? And not just that, but I mean, obviously, you're breaking boundaries with being a doctor who raps, but do you think in the tradition of, Pakistani Americans, definitely breaking some borders, right?
Definitely breaking some barriers,
some
right?
barriers. That's a better word.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm doing that are not characteristic of my community, of my religion,
right?
But to me, feel like are positive things for the world to
Yes.
digest and appreciate and hopefully enjoy, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely the CNN article. I mean, that's
awesome,
just
man.
crazy. Like I still can't believe that.
Come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love that, you know.
Yeah.
And it directly speaks about something that I heard you talk about on the album, which speaks to me in getting to be almost 30 years old and thinking about settling down eventually and having a family and making a home.
Yeah.
And thinking about a message that I'd be telling my kids.
Right.
And it's something I see through a lot of, you know, artists. There's this great psychedelic country artist called Sturgill Simpson, who put out, I think, his third album. It's called A Sailor's Guide to Earth. And it was a love story that he wrote to his son, his newborn son.
Oh, wow.
And the idea of making music and in some way speaking or even just having a message, you know, and saying something like what you're talking about already.
Right.
It's a powerful thing. But I mean, you know, what do you don't have any kids yet, right? I don't see no ring on the finger, right?
I don't have any kids yet. Yeah.
Not that you know of.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
letter to the future is to some child out there that I don't have yet.
It's your kid in the future.
It's my kid in the future. And I mean, letter to the future, definitely. I mean, I love that song. I love that track. And, you know, I think that for me, when I think about the world and our society, there are so many evils within this world that we live in. It's hard to find the good within the society that we live in. But there is good, right? There is inherent good within the world that we live in. There's good energy. There's good love between people. And I've always thought that, you know, we as people, as individuals, all we try to do constantly is change each other's opinions. Right? Like we're always trying to like, okay, no, you're thinking the wrong way. You got to think this way.
My thoughts on
right.
You should be thinking this.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's never like, oh, I tolerate what you're thinking and I appreciate what you're thinking. This is what I think.
Right. That's a lot harder conversation
That's
to have.
a lot harder of a conversation to have. Right. But tolerance is much better than intolerance. And
Very much so.
That's what brings about justice in the world. And so for me, when I was thinking about that concept, I thought, you know, for me personally, the way that I feel like I could impart that message to the world is through my kids. If I can teach my kids to accept everybody as they are, to let people be as they wish to be, to love everyone equally, you know, then I've made one small ripple of a change in the world, possibly.
It's beautiful.
And that's where kind of Letter to the Future comes in. So...
And the whole album is a beautiful message, man. And I really appreciate you coming and sitting down and talking with me about the album, about your trajectory as a physician and as a, you know, rapper in the future, man. And
I appreciate it.
I hope you do find more opportunities to perform, because, you know, there's always slots. There's always clubs that always have different rappers and different lineups. You know what I mean?
For sure, man.
I'll connect you with a couple of friends of mine that I have that, you know, might have some hip hop guys' names out in San Francisco.
I'd love that.
Sick, man.
I love that, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on this. I'm going to put a bunch of links within the podcast description, of course, so that people can check out your YouTube page, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Bandcamp, as well as maybe finding a way, you know, I'll talk to you about which medium you'd like people to be able to hear your music.
Yes.
And we'll listen to a little bit of it at the beginning of this podcast and at the end.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you, my man, and all the best to you, all right?
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, my man.
Yeah.
That was the episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, we encourage you to subscribe, to rate, to like, to share it with a friend. And hey, if you haven't checked out some of our older episodes, check out the slew of conversations we've had over the last 41, 40, maybe 39 conversations. We've got a lot more to come. I know we took a little break, but we're back with so much more. I am going to be playing one of my favorite songs off of UIM's album called Glorious. And within the description of this podcast, you can check out all of the links to not only follow UIM, but also purchase this album that I've been playing snippets of. I highly recommend it. And I appreciate him for coming on. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
You guys ready to keep this show going? We got to get our acts up here. I'm not going to waste any time. This young man, he does hip-hop. He does spoken word. This is my first time seeing him. It's your first time seeing him. Make it feel warm, Isna. Welcome to the stage, UIM.
A couple years ago, I saw a lot of hate inside the media. Presidential candidates focusing on demeaning us. Fed up with the rhetoric, I shared my views. Wrote a letter to the future, now it's front page news. Man, they put my face on CNN, it must be true. I'm getting calls to give a couple local interviews, and a few months later I'm flying out to perform in Chicago at ISNA. Irony at my core, the largest Islamic conference in the world, and I'm backstage with Dean Squad wishing I was home. Isn't this music business really considered sinful? Haven't I struggled with the judgment of those I'm here for? But I'm here for it, and I'm still pouring out my heart onto a stage where I feel foreign, and it might just swallow me whole. I know my family don't know that I'm out here performing.
All right, we're ready for showtime. You've been waiting for it. We're gonna take a little higher. Can we take it a little higher?
Yeah.
At times I'm looking at my life and playing it back. Like I wonder if I never started writing these raps, would I feel different now the way the world is breaking my back? Or would I stand alone and never know the way to fight back? I spent a lifetime worrying about other people's judgment, instead of doing what I needed to keep the love in. I wrote regrets a couple years after reasons, and I thought that I'd let go of all the weight that I've been feeling, but I didn't. Every couple songs I fear perception of what the snakes and greener grasses would be saying. Now I'm praying that Allah would give me strength through all the pain, cause Hov told me only God can judge me anyway. So I took myself to the mosque and started to pray, but they told me that Allah would only judge me the same. And so I'm out here posted up again, writing for days, trying to find myself through music as the cycle replays. As the cycle replays. As the cycle replays.